How do you guys educate the market on a solution that is not currently on the market?
Like, it is really hard to create a category for something that people don't know that they need.
What are the major pushbacks people have, if at all, or they just see the solution and
The biggest thing to tackle is change, and changing a process or investing in a solution that is different from the old way is a big thing to overcome.
Why do you deal with pricing and packaging? Is it not one size fits all? And if not, then why?
So I joke with the team, I'm like, on Wednesdays, we change pricing. Just because we need to test, we need to push and see where that market fit really is.
And what's the biggest myth about selling or building tech for the real industry?
You have to know this industry. It's built on relationships. It's the most complex. Like, to build a building, I don't know how many different stakeholders are involved.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks and Bytes podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode.
Okay. Hey, Jack. Hey, Laura. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you. How are you, Martin?
I'm pretty good. I'm also in the US this week. This is next week. So yeah, we have a pleasure of chatting 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Eastern time. No, 7 a.m. That's Western time, right? And
Yes.
10 a.m. Philadelphia time. So yeah, bright and early for you especially.
Yes, I've got my coffee here, so excuse me if I drink every once in a while.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so Jack, Director New Markets at TestFit. Laura, you are Senior Vice President of Growth at TestFit. So maybe give me a little bit of background of how you came to work at TestFit. Maybe starting from you, Laura.
Sure. Yeah. So my background is really in tech and startups at the early stage. I was previously, I think, employee 28 at Sonos, and then joined Procore around 100, 200 people. And as I had, left Procore after IPO, I was working at a startup that was getting acquired, and was the great thing about this industry is, I think, once you're in it, people are great at mentorship. And I was, speaking with a woman who was working at TestFit, and, just mentioned that I was thinking about my next step. And she was like, "You have to come work here at TestFit." And so, I had great conversations, and, the way I evaluate is, what does the product market fit look like? And just watching TestFit for the first time, I was like, okay, they've got something here. So I joined about, I guess it's going on almost 3 years now. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. We'll get into product market fit and others later. Jack, what about you?
Yeah, thanks. I have a little bit of a similar but different kind of way in. My background's in architecture and urban planning. Grew up in Chicago and started working for a company called GGP, doing retail and mixed use planning. That got acquired by Brookfield. And in like 2017, I think we actually started using TestFit internally. So got connected to Clifton
2017.
then. Yeah, 2017. So like a year after they released it. We're pretty early, or it might have been 2018, but somewhere around there.
What was TestFit about at the time?
Mostly multifamily. Yeah, we're mid-density multifamily. But it was super helpful because at the time at Brookfield, the acquisition of GGP was to build 100 small cities on large retail plots and shopping centers. So I needed help planning out all of these, and we were using TestFit to do that. that's how I got connected to Clifton. I ended up leaving Brookfield for a small startup in California. And then I think one day I just messaged him and was asking about what TestFit was doing. And that conversation led to coming on board.
Okay, so that's the question for both of you actually now. So what is TestFit right now, and what is that you both working on within TestFit?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I'm
Laura.
happy to go first. Sure. So what I spend my days on, mostly pricing. Pricing and packaging, I think, is takes up most of my day. But yeah, we've been doing a lot to try to make sure we're serving all of our different customers in the way that makes sense to them, that we're marketing appropriately. It gets tough when you've got a whole ecosystem you're trying to serve and not just one persona, one target. So really, it's just balancing the ever present launches every month, trying to make sure that we're talking about them in the right way, and then selling in a way that our customers are going to be successful. And then recently been working on a lot of revamping the onboarding process for our customers to make sure that that we don't have anyone with a failure to launch, so to speak.
So you price and package, and then Jack ships it off to the new markets.
I was gonna say, Laura does way more than pricing and packaging. She's orchestrating the whole thing. Like the machine runs because Laura's mind is behind it. What I'm more focused on is on the new market side and sales side, right? Trying to understand what TestFit is really good at, what we can make some iterations on to be better at different sectors in the market. So for us, new markets doesn't look like, hey, we're going to go look at different regions of the world. TestFit is present across the world right now. It's more like, what different typologies can we help solve, and can we actually help, right? There's some things we can't, and there's some things that we really can. And it's a matter of finding those out, market sizing, and then kind of going after it.
Or to put it another way, Jack's like boots on the ground, figuring out what our product strategy needs to be. Like, where do we need to go next? So a lot of it's really business development when we say new markets.
Okay, great. So what TestFit is doing right now, and what product typologies, I think you use this term, do you have?
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, so the journey of TestFit is starting off at mid-density. Being a Texas-based startup, we did the Texas donut first, right? And kind of scaled from there, going into lower density townhomes, single family, retail. That got us into things like industrial, and then most recently data centers. We can help with self-storage. We can help with anything within residential that is low, like single family to high rise. So you think about like student housing, senior living, long-term care, those types of things, and even hotels as well. And mixed within that is modular, right? So it's kind of funny how you think about typologies. Like modular is almost its own typology at this point, because it's a different way of thinking about how you solve a site. So all of those are encompassed in TestFit right now, and we've got some more things that we've been building to capture more of that.
And that's just the typologies. I mean, really, we're also serving architects, developers. We've got a lot of GC customers as of late. Cities are using TestFit, civil engineers, especially with the topo that we launched with that calculates, moving dirt, all the fun stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's a broad reach, and yeah, to Jack's point, it's a lot of orchestrating, making sure we're serving all.
Okay, what's like currently maybe 80% of core functionality? Within which typology does it lay? If there is such a spread, or maybe it's more widely spread within more than just one or two.
Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I mean, our bread and butter has been multifamily, and it was the first thing we started at. It's the most developed configurator, we call them, that TestFit has. Industrial has become a bigger mix, probably over the last year and a half, and then data centers. It's been hot, obviously, in the market, and we luckily had the ability to take advantage of that market as well.
And I
So you,
think part of that too is, sorry, not to jump in, is like,
that's right.
is the market itself, right? So we, have high level data coming from our customers. We can see like total, units and that sort of thing kind of being created, that kind of stuff. And you can see pretty quickly how people shifted in that change in the rate market from that higher density multifamily to lower density multifamily really quickly. So, it all kind of depends on the market. We are not able to determine the market, right? And just try and serve it the best we can. So it really does depend on where the rates are and what everyone's doing with that sort of thing.
How do you guys educate the market on a solution that is not currently on the market? Like, do you come up with a product and you explain this is something better than they currently use, or like what's the process behind it?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of talking to category creation right now, right? Like, it is really hard to create a category for something that people don't know that they need. So the first thing you really have to do when you're coming to market, and as Jack mentioned, we've been around since 2016, 2017 in the market. So by now we've got that presence, but when I think about different strategies for bringing to market something that is new like this and category creation, is really just thinking about something that they know, identifying pain that they have, even if they don't know they have it, and trying to explain it in a way that makes sense to something that they can understand. At Sonos, we did something very similar. We were launching a wireless multi-room speaker system when there wasn't an iPhone yet. And so it really is, it's hard to explain, how do you talk about music in different rooms and coming from not having to like put a CD in something. So it really, when we were first launching that was kind of some of the lessons that I got to learn in my career, was really about referencing something people knew. And as soon as, there were docking stations for an iPod, that was our in. We're like, all right, it's like that, but you don't have to have that in the dock, right? So it really was like, unlock the music by taking it out of something that you reference that they know. So we've really taken a similar approach, trying to really reference like the current process today, which usually is spreadsheets, and what that can be like by connecting design and the numbers together.
And sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, and adding on to that, first of all, awesome story from Laura, like being able to be on like Sonos and how that behavior change happened before anyone was even thinking about the iPhone is crazy. But that's really what we're doing with educating as well, as behavior change. And I think Ben Witten from Placer had a great post the other day of, innovation is never asked for, right? And I think that what's that old adage of like, if Henry Ford had asked his customer what they wanted, he would have built a better horse breeding company versus like an actual car company. And that's really what you have to get to is how do you kind of think about what the market is asking for and then also what they really need. And I think Clifton has a really good pulse on that. And when you get to conversations with developers or GCs and civils and that sort of thing, no one is asking to spend more time in feasibility, right? No one's like, man, I love my day when I spend 5 hours, trying to figure out a site plan. Everyone wants to build buildings and do, the longer tail things. And so I think if we can find a way to make that easier for all parties, that's the behavior change that starts to educate them on like, oh, this is possible.
What are the major like pushbacks people have, if at all, or they just see the solution and they straight away buy into that?
That'd be great, right? No, I mean, I think there is, we have tools like Gong where we get to watch these demos being done, and the moment that the jaw opens, you're like, okay, they see the magic, right? But the biggest thing to tackle is change, and changing a process or investing in a solution that is different from the old way is a big thing to overcome. So, I mean, Jack, you're on the phone with customers more day to day than I am, but I mean, getting them to think about change is probably the hardest part.
Well, right. And behavior change is hard, right? Like none of us like to do anything different. It takes a while to create a habit, do anything, right? And especially for our market, architects are pretty technical, but they are pretty set in their ways of like, I've been using Revit for the last 10 plus years now. Why would I want to go learn another software? Learning Revit took a long time.
Because it's better?
Right? I mean, you can say that all day, but it's very hard to convince someone. And then, the other side of that is developers where, I met with a guy doing industrial who was literally planning it out in an Excel worksheet. He had made all of the grids the same size as his grid for his industrial building and was drawing it out by hand. And like, yes, that is very difficult, but it's what he knew, right? And so it's all about trying to get people to kind of see the forest through the trees a little bit of like, there is a better way forward. Yes, it's going to take, a little bit of time to learn it. That's why we set you up with onboarding at TestFit, and Laura and Megan have done a great job of getting our team set up to make sure there's no failure to launch, right? We're getting people up and running as quickly as they can.
My intuition would tell me that designers would be most difficult to persuade to use something new, whereas developers who very quickly adjust because they see constant ROI, and that's all about ROI. Am I right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good guess. Yeah.
Pretty good guess.
Yeah. That said, like once they've made the decision, usually the architect is the quickest to pick it up and make the change. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Everyone wants to know what's their position in the value chain here.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You guys also coined a term which is real estate execution plan. Like, what does it mean, and why is it used in construction?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really just a way to talk about what our solution is. So, our focus is really about what is going to be the best thing for this building, and how do we get more buildings built. So, you're dealing with disconnected workflows. You're dealing with different motivations by all the various stakeholders, and frankly, some outdated tools that they're using. And so they're operating in silos. They're not talking the same language. And so our vision is really to provide a platform for all these key stakeholders to be in a single system where they get to focus on what is important to them, but they can also see and have things like design and the geometry connected to the numbers that, a different persona would care about.
Mm-hmm. So if the stakeholders are using TestFit and they're using one of the not coordinators, help me with that. What's the word? Configurators.
Oh, yes.
Configurators. And then I guess the output is the model, geometry, and also does it come with a price?
Yeah, so that's kind of like what you kind of talked about is like the ROI side of things. Developers can get a plan out really quickly. Architects can start to have a model that they can share, and it's connected to costs, it's connected to a cost model, I should say. It's connected to quantity takeoff immediately. And so you can start to have that better coordination and conversation, right? Like going back to Brookfield, I would draw a multifamily building, give it to my developer, and he'd say, we need more units. I'm like, why do we need more units? That's the most annoying thing in the entire, what do you mean? Do you want to go higher? Do you want to go smaller units? Like, what needs to happen, right, in order to get that revenue that you're looking for? And I think that's the REX model, the real estate execution model, is somewhere that conversation can happen a lot cleaner, all on the same page right away, right? Because that way, I mean, there's no precedent right now for a Revit model to be connected to an Excel model for a pro forma, right? And like in TestFit, that is possible. So kind of cool to have that conversation going.
Mm-hmm. Okay. About the pricing models, maybe Laura, I will pick your brains here. Like, why do you deal with pricing and packaging? Is it not one size fits all? And if not, then why?
Yeah, I think it's something that we learned from my days at Procore is, we were changing the pricing model as well, right? Everybody in AEC is used to per seat licenses, and that has been the way that things have been for a long time. And I give credit to Procore. They really innovated in that space, and they tied their price based on the construction volume. So the dollar of the projects that you're running through their software. that really helped tie the value of the software to the value of the output that the user is getting. And so I've taken that lesson to really play a lot with our pricing and packaging to figure out where is the value, what is that unit metric that is tied to where our users are getting value out of it, and how do we provide enough of a platform value that they can get value before they have to go deep into a deal and figure out if it's going to work. So I joke with the team, I'm like, on Wednesdays we change pricing, just because we need to test, we need to push and see where that market fit really is. And we're getting closer and closer, and we're starting to see real success over the last couple of months with the most recent version of this, where we're really tying the value to the site that you're testing. And our focus has always been trying to move towards a collaborative environment. So we talked about the Rex model, right? That real estate execution is never going to get done if not all of the stakeholders are able to be involved, because you can have an architect that's really happy with the building, but then the developer can't make it pencil, or vice versa. So it's really providing a place for all of them to be. And the only way I know how to do that is to provide unlimited users and allow all of them to be on the platform.
So that's the current way of charging. What was it before?
When I first got here, they were charging per seat. So that was the model a couple of years ago. But
Okay.
we've been doing more of this kind of usage model for a couple of years. We're refining it and getting it into the place where it's the right unit that makes sense, that is predictable for our customers, so that they know how to plan for their year.
So mostly the customers are testing sites using TestFit. To what stage is it like a feasibility study from what point of view? From the financial point of view, or from like a zoning point of view? Jack, you mentioned earlier that when in the previous work someone want to squeeze some more units, and you ask a question, when horizontally or vertically, I think. So does TestFit allow you to see, as a user, to see from zoning point of view that that's the maximum stories you can put in this area, or that's the maximum like volume horizontally you can add? Does it work that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we have zoning built into TestFit through a partner. Being able to say what is the max allowed in as far as the number of units is very difficult, right? Usually it's an FAR calculation, and so if you want to do micro units, you absolutely could and get more, or if you want to do luxury units, you're going to get less. And then there's all the density bonuses and things that is the secret sauce of your developer. When you start to get into what is a developer's build box, and that usually has a region tied to it, a typology tied to it, a unit type tied to it. They know really quickly what their bonuses are, what their things are that they can kind of get into. It's actually wild to have those conversations with folks. So at TestFit, what we try and do is give you the optionality to test all of those variables, right? So like if I did a certain percentage of affordable, right, I know I can get a little bit more FAR. Show me what that FAR, increase would look like in TestFit. And
FAR
the
is in this case?
floor area ratio. I think
Okay.
it's called something else in Europe, and I'm blanking on it right now. But similar meaning. And so, being able to have all of those options in TestFit, run them, and then be able to do competing pro formas essentially out of the data to get you to, okay, maybe it doesn't make sense to do that much affordable, and I can just get my lease up done faster if I, go full market rate and stay at the smaller building.
So how do customers calculate the ROI on the TestFit price? Then how do they do it?
Yeah, well, we put out a survey every year to ask our customers that very question and validate assumptions, right? As a product marketing is putting together their positioning statements and figuring out what that story is, we do validate that every year. So the biggest thing is usually time savings. So the fact that you're not, if you're a developer, usually you're waiting, a couple of weeks to get a plan back from either your civil or your architect to tell you what's happening on that deal. You may have lost an opportunity by that point, right? Somebody else has snagged the piece of land you were about to grab. Also money. I mean, for our architects, they're sometimes giving these studies away for free in an effort to win the next job. So that time is actual money, right? Those are billable hours being lost. And then, we also have customers that are, I think Tom Rettenhauer has got a case study out, talking about how in the first year he actually ended up winning about $750,000 more of business. So it's also business creation. So I'd say time, money, and then, growth, and also the risk of losing or having something inaccurate, right? You counted the wrong number of parking stalls, and now you're not going to meet your requirements that you thought you were.
Mm-hmm. Jack, wanted to ask about new regions. What are you looking when evaluating if the region is the right for TestFit to start expansion? Or are you in the whole country right now, or in certain regions?
Yeah. So, for us, new markets really is typologies or functionality versus like regionality. We are very prolific in the US and Canada. We have great data for both. But we have a fair amount of users in Europe working on things from data centers to storage to housing. We've got folks over in Africa and South America, even like Australia and getting over into Japan. It's not our focus though, right? For all of those other regions, and there's different nuances to the way you build in those regions that eventually one day TestFit will go after. What we really look at is what are typologies or what are core functionality that are becoming a need in the market, right? So like Laura said, was 18, 20 months ago, we realized that, the data center market was drastically changing. Like we were having conversations with people, not to get too far into the details, but people were building like 30 megawatt buildings, and that was a big building like 36 months ago. Now we're talking about like Stargate and everything else where they're building like 2 gigawatts worth of development, and that's like your benchmark, and your average size for a campus is now 500 megawatts, right? So we more than 10x the size of these buildings really quickly, and it pushed a lot of developers into prototypical design, which TestFit is really good at. So we spun up a pod and got to work and built a full featured configurator for that, and we're able to ship it very quickly. So that's the kind of thing that we look for in the market to kind of go after.
Mm-hmm. And like, what's your go-to market like?
As far as I mean, so as an example, Jack's has identified that retail, with drive-through is something that is not being solved out there in the market. So and he mentioned pods, and we can get into that. That's how we organize ourselves internally to be able to move really quickly. But we've spun up a pod to build out this drive-through retail configurator for the market. And so for the go-to-market for that, and Jack can get into some more details, but we've put out a beta landing page. We've talked about that. We are blessed with great social media presence and reach. Mostly from our very colorful CEO. He's like marketing gold. I can't thank him enough for the spiciness that he is. So we've been able to do all of this with really just organic methods. So posting on it, social, talking about it, and Jack's got quite a exciting group of beta interested parties, and now we're working on delivering that. So when we launch that, we'll do a webinar, we'll do outreach via email, we'll do maybe even we're just now dipping our toe into some paid marketing, but really it's just about spreading the word. And like I said, we're blessed to have a pretty decent social media reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Clifton is very spicy. I remember when we went to next London Build conference, I think, and everyone was presenting on the stage the new and recent software for the design. And after all presentations, Clifton said something like along these lines. I'm quite impressed that all of the new solutions are still focused on clicking the mouse, and we call it innovation nowadays. So yeah.
Doesn't hold any punches, that's for sure.
Yes. Jack, anything else on go-to-market side? Maybe
Yeah, I mean,
maybe you can elaborate about these pods as well a bit more.
sure. I mean, like Laura said, we're spinning up pods to kind of go after different aspects of what we want to go, spinning up a pod for something new, and then we have existing pods for, core functionality within TestFit. So like parking, right, as its own pod, really just focused on, how does that kind of work and the technology behind parking. And so, from the go-to-market side, there's a go-to-market leader in every pod, and that's to try and get boots on the ground, like Laura said earlier, to have someone that is interacting with a customer and being able to give that feedback right back to product and engineering. So like for an example, we're working on this beta testing group, and we've already had 6 or 7 meetings with different companies this week, which has been great. And I'm able to go from a meeting with an engineer on like a Monday where we talk about this new spinal thing that we're doing, and then immediately into a call where I don't, I've done a lot of drive-throughs and that sort of thing of GGP, but I don't have all the answers. And I can go into a meeting and have a conversation with someone who's doing this every day, that's, interacting with drive-throughs, ask a question, get an answer, and go back to my engineer an hour later. Like that kind of feedback loop isn't possible if you start to have too many silos and too many things kind of in between. But Laura can probably give more vision on what Pod's is going to do.
So it's a quick iteration, I think, which allows you to keep it to what the customers wants, right? And
Yeah, and we try to have like the go-to-market person be that expert in the market. So we've positioned each into something that they're familiar with, that they have industry understanding. So we're not building for one customer, right? We want somebody who's talking to lots of customers. So this is a double duty that our sales team has to play, right? They're leading the pod and directing what needs to get built. And the business side of that is they're attaching dollars. Like I have these opportunities that I could close today if I had this feature or this function. And so from a business perspective, it helps us focus on what is the low-hanging fruit that is available in the market that we can go get. And then, as Jack mentioned, we have the existing pods that are focused on our core functionality. So making sure we don't get siloed and making sure that we're building for the future and spending that effort at a platform level to make sure that we're set up for success in the future and don't get stuck with a bunch of technical debt.
Mm-hmm. What are like main KPIs, internal KPIs, maybe when you are looking into these pods? Should we go into these features? Should we expand these features? Like, what are the main ones, and how do you evaluate them? Is it always like engineering hours? I think Jack mentioned those, or maybe Laura, you mentioned that it cannot fit just one customer, but it needs to have slightly broader market. Like, tell me a bit about the KPIs here.
Generally, their revenue. So there are, so say for Jack, I don't know what your exact KPI is for the retail pod, but it's probably a sales number. Like we will close this many deals in retail drive-through by X date. And that is really the driving force. And it when we spun up this concept internally, it really is about short term. So we have, these pods only last for 3 to 6 months, depending on the effort. And it could be less even. I think Jack came to me with an idea yesterday about one that will take about a month and a half and has real revenue attached. And so, the company still is making those trade-off decisions, but generally speaking, their revenue, and if they're on like the the more platform side of things, you might have a ship something by date that will be a KPI that we can track, but also is, not as easy to measure from a revenue perspective.
Mm-hmm. What's the roadmap for pods for maybe next few months or for this year? Like, how many have you got planned?
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I think it evolves very quickly. Like Laura said, they don't all have the same deadline, right? So one could have a deadline for a month and a half to 2 months. We've got, retail that will probably persist but evolve over time. Parking as well kind of changes based on the technology that we need to build. And you've got things for housing, right, which will, evolve and change. I think the housing pod right now is really focused on the lower density housing, and that's a response directly to the market of, hey,
lower density, which would mean low rise and kind of spread out, right?
Yeah, so like think about like single family communities, your townhomes, what we lovingly call Gerben, which some people get, some people don't, like garden style in an urban area. Anything without a garage or a podium, right? That's really what the team is focused on, and that's directly from the market, and that rates are sticking longer than we thought. We're not able to get, the depth that we think we can get to make these deals pencil. Let's go after, everything else. And that's from real conversations with architects, developers, GCs every single day. So, I think it just kind of depends. We've got a whole pod just focused on industrial and data centers, and that, continues to evolve as those markets evolve too. So I would also say like the part of the KPI is revenue, but balanced with cost internally, like you kind of mentioned, and that like it is proportional to how long it would take. Like I would not have brought that idea to Laura yesterday if I thought it was going to be a 6+ month adventure. There's just not enough revenue that I think we could get to make that worthwhile, or there's just too much risk, right? But if you can accomplish something pretty quickly and there's revenue on the board, like let's go after it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking for an exclusive, Martin, I think one of the things that is coming soon, and I don't know the air date on this, so hopefully I don't get myself in trouble, but we will be releasing the ability to edit TestFit from the web. So that has been, something that we have always focused on is the shareability on the web and being able to share your deals, but we will also be launching the ability to edit inside of TestFit from the web. So
how much
coming soon.
Good, very good. Looking forward to it. What's the level of AI usage, or I don't know if this is the right way of putting it, within TestFit? How much AI have you got in TestFit?
Go ahead.
It's a fun one to answer. We used to have a guy on staff who used to interview people and ask like what AI was, and I think it's a very funny question to always ask, especially in today's day and age. What TestFit's very good at is generative design, which is a subset of AI, right? In the way that you're kind of looking at that. The things that TestFit does uniquely with that is because of Ryan's vision from the very beginning, our CTO, of building TestFit in C, which allows us to move very quickly. We can do a few thousand iterations a millisecond. That gives people, no loading screens, right? And to Clifton's point of like the innovation of being able to click is not really that exciting, and click and draw is not that exciting anymore. I want to generate and then edit, right? And that's what TestFit is really striving to do, is allow you to put your core competency or your special sauce in a TestFit, allow generative design to give you those iterations of that, and then go in there, basically approve the ones you like, and then still have the ability to go in and manually edit. And so from the AI perspective, it's really focused on that generative design functionality.
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
Okay, I think when we spoke with Clifton even a few months ago, he mentioned that everyone in TestFit has is a builder at heart. How does this influence your product and go-to-market strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely resonate with that. I think, I didn't have the words to put around it before I think I worked at Procore and really got into this industry. Um, it's a wonderful industry. I think it's much easier now to put the word builder when you're thinking about, okay, what is construction really? What are we trying to do when we're trying to get buildings built? And I think inherently most people at startups are builders, right? They want to create something, whether it be the product or whether it be building the entire go-to-market function and figuring out pricing and packaging. And it's really about like trying a theory or a hypothesis and seeing if it works, and then if it doesn't, you pivot and you try again until you have the right solution. So I think, from my perspective, I'd say, that fully resonates. And I definitely think it's a description of everybody at TestFit.
100% agree. I think the other side of builder is one of our core values is empathy. And I think everyone on our team has an amazing amount of empathy for all the customers we touch, right? Especially on the go-to-market side too, of being able to have those leaders in those pods that are not only getting the feedback and getting boots on the ground, but can hear the pain from customers or prospects and move into those conversations with engineers and are able to communicate that. One example comes to mind is we're building a full pro forma tool that'll launch in a little bit, and it's being built and led by another Laura on our team who has been in all different parts of the value chain, been on the architecture side, the city side, the REIT side, and can really come to this design challenge essentially with a lot of empathy for the problem and a lot of recognition for what needs to be done, and is willing to do that iterative testing process to get it done.
On the go-to-market side, my feeling is that when you have this configurator tools, which are probably collapsing so many working hours during the initial design stages, the ROI is very visible for people using it. But the question is really, are there any like non-obvious go-to-market strategies that you didn't expect to unravel during the journey?
I'm trying to think of it. It's a really good question. I think, the complexity around the different personas and what they care about. I think that was the hardest thing. I came from construction, so I knew the GC and the pre-construction side of things, but I wasn't as familiar with the AE side of things, especially a developer. Man, I mean, who knew that they have job titles that sound like you're in finance, right? And trying to use the word real estate, you end up with like people that are agents for trying to sell your home. So I think on the go-to-market side of things, like really dialing in and trying to find the correct target market has been the biggest learning and surprise for me, for sure.
I would also say I agree with that 100%, especially from our PDR team. But I would also say like it's the hidden ROI for each persona, right? And Laura kind of touched on that in that, there's opportunity cost for an architect who does this for free. Yes, they can do it faster, but like, how do you quantify that found value of like how many hours did you bring back, right? And actually showing that to folks, because a lot of people aren't doing that math, right, and figuring it out. And the other side of that is for developers. I think we had an affordable housing developer that was able to beat the market rate guys to bid on the project because he used TestFit. And so, yes, he won that deal, but what was the opportunity cost there? And how do you start to communicate that value? I think is a challenge that, we've started to crack, but I think we'll continue to as we scale. And I think that's one of those things that is evolving, especially with pricing and packaging.
Yeah, I mean, our salespeople, it's much easier if someone is paying someone to do something and you're like, now you don't have to pay someone to do something. But if you're
or pays much less.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's really, okay, what would you be doing with those 2 hours or 2 weeks that you're spending doing something that you could be doing something else? What does that mean? It's much harder to quantify.
You can always do more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be great in go-to-market, as you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come join the team.
Yeah, we're hiring, Martin. Come on over.
Great. I'm already in the US, so okay. I want to touch on permitting, and so permitting seems like it's a complex problem in all geographies. There's lots of stakeholders. Being in the US, you have municipalities. It's not councils; it's municipalities, right? So, and the municipalities are obviously having constraints on what you can build, and I wonder if perhaps TestFit is doing anything with municipalities directly, or is planning to do anything directly with municipalities, so that it will be kind of like a go-to place that people can find out how they can build, what they can build in certain locations.
Yeah, we're kind of approaching it from the other side of things. We're working with cities. We're working with, developers and civils that are working with cities. And the way that they're using TestFit is really to test assumptions. So if we didn't have this restriction that you can't build this type of development in this area, or you have to be so far away from the train track or whatever it might be, they're able to test that in TestFit. Okay, what if we had the setback be, 15 feet instead of 20? You can test that right inside TestFit, and you can say, oh, the city can now get some more affordable housing that they're trying to get in the same space. And so we're really using it for municipalities to test out assumptions like, hey, if we made policy change, how could that help us with our housing problem?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other side too is yes, we'd love to do more with cities. The hardest thing is understanding what zoning can do for your city, right? Like we can write it. I worked in a city at one point as an intern, and like trying to distill it down even from working there is difficult. So exactly like what Laura's saying. And the other side of that is a lot of cities are going out and trying to find land that they want to RFP for affordable housing, right? And so we can help them in that way too, to find land within their own jurisdiction to add more housing, which we desperately need.
Yeah, how is it currently done? Like within municipalities, is it like traditional like software and people designing things, or?
Council members pet project with stacked RFPs. It's like the nice way of doing it. They RFP someone to go find land. They RFP someone to then test the land, and then they RFP it out for someone to build on the land. So we could definitely come in and shed some of those processes and move a lot faster.
But permitting, I mean, that is greenfield right there for someone to innovate and figure out, how to get all of those things into one system with a, similar data so that we could apply stuff like AI to it to figure out like where are their opportunities, what are those, so you can pull them right in. Permitting is probably like the toughest nut to crack right now, just because every city has a different way of cataloging and calling it.
Yeah, I think in this term, US is not different than Europe or my home country in Poland or UK where I currently live. So it's the same thing.
Yeah,
in each geography. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you help connect all of the stakeholders, consultants, municipality. Like I guess they are connected through the platform and the ease of use of the platform, but maybe you can tell what direct and indirect benefits of these connections are.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell a story about a customer of ours. They had drawn up a plan, took it into their developer client's office, and were showing them. And to Jack's point, they were like, well, we need more units. And, the question of, okay, do you want that higher, lower, smaller? And they were able to just make the changes live with them on the big screen. So having the ability to do something like that has really created some great relationships among the different stakeholders, because now the architect can speak the numbers, right? Because as they change geometry, they're seeing the live pro forma updating, and then the developer also is able to see is, either they're the ones using it or their client is, but they're able to see, okay, me asking for these numbers to change is really going to affect this building, and I can't sell that building. That's not going to work. So it really just like gets them all speaking in a common language and, on the same page about what is the right thing for the building ultimately.
And then the back half of that is like I've had customers who have said, they love how TestFit is such a simple model. Like we catch a lot of flack for it on social media, especially on TikTok, for like, how we don't have like bricks on our buildings or windows or whatever that may be. But the people who are using TestFit love that because they can take it to a city for preliminary approval, right? So once they've gotten to a plan that they like, I've had a multifamily and a data center developer both take plans and show it to the city and be like, hey, is this generally approvable, right? Especially from like the data center side, being able to go get, electricity approved. But from an architecture side for multifamily, being able to go and say, hey, this 250 units, this is what that looks like. Is this generally approvable? Don't get caught up in whether my facade looks the way you want yet. I just want to know, is this the density and the scale that you like? The city can then focus on that, which is super helpful.
Okay. Is the plan for TestFit to, apart from doing this generative design kind of configurator that is currently there, to dive slightly deeper into particulars of architecture of engineering, to, apart from giving the generative design showing feasibility, to get slightly more in-depth outcomes, like maybe structural design or MEP design at some point?
Yeah, I think the beauty of the way that we've built the system is it is very, it's geometry reacting to each other through these algorithms, right? And so when Jack talked about this spinal thing we're doing, it's really like the way that we ultimately this parking configurator is kind of our secret sauce, right? Because we can apply that to different things, and that's how some of these building configurators started, right? You could see taking that either to like a macro level, like here's city planning, right? Same thing, boxes in different shapes reacting to each other. Or you could see that going really detailed and micro and internal to a building. It is something we're thinking about in the future. I don't think it's anything that I can't give you an exclusive on that. But I think that the way that we're building this, we do see that there are other applications. In fact, I mean, we come across fun applications all the time. Jack, what was the one you were doing with like stadium seating or something?
Yeah, we were able to make stadium seating work and make it work for major events. So pretty fun.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about like what's the real estate workflow here in the US? And are you trying to disrupt it, or are you trying to make it more smoother as it is?
It's a good question. I wouldn't say we're trying to disrupt it by any means, right? It's kind of meeting our customers where they're at today. And it's just more of trying to make it a lot smoother. And if that's disruption, I guess maybe you could qualify that. But really the process is land is either up for sale or is available in some way, shape, or form, right? A broker or developer is going to find that land and start to iterate on it. Broker will bring it to a developer. Developer likes to go find off-market deals. Once they kind of do their back of the napkin of, hey, this is a market we like to be in, we generally think there's enough acreage, I send it to my architect to do a plan. They give it back. We go back and forth for 2 weeks to try and get it to the right plan. I then send it to my GC to price it. get that back, usually back and forth to the architect again. Okay, I like it. Let me go make a bid, right? That's 2 months of work on pursuit costs that has no return on investment for the developer, right? Unless that deal moves forward. If we can collapse that down into, let's say, a day or so, have everyone in the same platform, being able to do live cost estimation while the architect's doing that, like what Laura was saying, being able to say, I move this, okay, GC, you're on the call, tell me what that does to the price. Great. An hour later, and I have a plan I can move forward with. To your point, Martin, I could do a lot more planning for different sites, but I also can, optimize my team's time to focus on the projects that should move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would also, I completely agree. I don't think we're trying to disrupt, but I do think, as you look to the market and what AI is doing to our current work, right? It's turning everyone into the ability to kind of be their own entrepreneur and be able to create things. So with limited, knowledge, you can create an MVP product and be like, hey, this is an idea I have. And, you might be able to go get funding and then get a real engineer to help you build that. I think the same thing could be said for something like TestFit, right? You could see an architect being able to become their own developer, or by being able to use this tool, like help understand like the way that the numbers are coming out and be able to get in front of that investment committee, or vice versa. You can have a developer that's able to get through this process on their own. And so, just thinking about AI and hyper fragmentation that might be coming, I think something like TestFit could create opportunities for a lot more smaller firms, smaller architects, single shopped, or smaller developer firms as well. So I see an opportunity for, more fragmentation and having opportunities much easier at your fingertips than it would have been before.
So you're taking it from different angle that I was thinking, but in terms of more fragmentation, I was thinking there's more consolidation, but of the process, which allows you to keep the process within one shop, let's say,
Sure.
and have this all insights from this one platform, rather than having engineer, having architect, and so many other planning perhaps consultants involved.
Yeah. And, we see that with our GC customers too. Like they are kind of opening their eyes like, oh, wow, like instead of like trying to acquire a design firm, maybe I can use this as a way to create business development for myself. Go take this to a developer and say, I can build you this, and here's your returns, and it's all in a package. Now let me go build it. And so we see that as, they're becoming really innovative and reaching out to us. It's not even a outbound motion that we're doing. We're getting really innovative GCs coming and wanting to buy TestFit to be their quote unquote design / business development arm to help create more volume for their construction side.
Also, I can see opportunities for, let's say, architectural firms that would specialize only in the early stages of the feasibilities, really, and kind of figure out the process perfectly using TestFit. And that would be that can be their USP. I don't know if that's the model in the US, that there are companies doing just so, or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the side of the architect too, everyone on our architect side is pretty technical, right? Like architects are undervalued in the market with how technical most of them are. There's not a lot of people that can look at a Dynamo script and like actually know what they're doing. And so, there's the kind of inclination like, oh, I could go build this in Dynamo or Grasshopper or something. And like that may be true for like one little tiny aspect of something, but the management of that and like being able to iterate on that takes so much time, right? Like,
and not everyone can do it.
Not everyone can do it, right? And I think that's the phantom costs of something as well. Like we talk about, I think you guys talked about BIM on one of these podcasts too, of like, it's just the phantom cost of BIM, like how many BIM coordinators are there out there, all of these types of things. It just costs so much more money to manage a platform that, is trying to get to a full solution, but it takes so much time. And I think with TestFit, what we're trying to do is optimize a lot of that into off the shelf, ready to go. We'll do the management of like making sure we're relevant to the market. You just make sure you're getting your project work done.
Okay, speaking of BIM, let's be a bit controversial then. Like, what are your thoughts
Where's
on?
Clifton?
Yeah, what are your thoughts on BIM? And is TestFit using BIM?
I'll let you go, Jack.
I think someone said the other day, I think it was someone you were talking to that said like architects should only be buying, or consultants should only be buying 100% solutions. And I would love to hear like when they cancel their subscription to any BIM software, because there's not a BIM software out there that is 100% solution.
Yes.
There's just not, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you have to hire someone to manage it takes so long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Clifton, and Laura, you probably better insight in this, if he would quantify or qualify us as BIM, right? I mean, we have information on the model of the building, but like, is that BIM? I don't really think that's what like the vision of BIM is, you know?
Yeah, let's not be too attached to these three letters, yeah, BIM, because I think we coined this term few decades ago, and in the industry, and kind of attached Revit probably to it.
Yeah.
But it's building information modeling, right? So it doesn't mean that it's Revit. This is other aspect of it. It needs to do the job first of all, rather than being too complex to do anything turnkey, really.
Yeah. And I think, that the opportunity for disruption there is really, you're trying to do it almost backwards, like add the information before you have the building.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just, I think it was a great start, and it just needs some innovation. And so TestFit's looking at it from the other direction. Like, let's start with the geometry and like get the numbers from the geometry, and then make changes to the geometry and get more information. So no, I don't think we consider ourselves technically BIM. I think we're something new.
Mm-hmm.
Something different. That's my feeling as well. Okay, so the last one from me would be, what's the biggest myth about selling or building tech for the real industry?
The biggest myth. I mean, I think I'll go back to my Procore days. Like, we were, the competition, right, we were trying to figure out at the time, like, what is our competition out there? And the big worry was that somebody, like a general tech giant out there would come and take AEC, right? That, I think, has been the most of the thinking out there is like, okay, a big tech can just come apply their technology into AEC. Mm-hmm. And I have, after having been in this industry for almost a decade, I will 100% say that is not true. You have to know this industry. It's built on relationships. It's the most complex. Like, to build a building, I don't know how many different stakeholders are involved. Every time it's a new set of stakeholders, right, that maybe have never worked together. They all have different needs, different, different ideas, and every single one is a prototype, because even if you're building the same like prototype everywhere, you're on a different piece of land. And again, you're working with all these different stakeholders. So I think you really have to know this industry in order to build something for it, because it's not typical. And I think that's why AEC has been some of the last to be served by great technology. It's a very hard nut to crack.
Jack?
100% agreed. I would almost take that to the next step further of like sales is sales is sales. Like, anyone thinks that they can sell anything. And I guarantee you they can't sell to AECDO. Like, that's great that you're at Salesforce, but I don't think you can transfer that over. I think you have, like Laura said, it's relationship based. You have to know the industry. You have to understand what's going on. And we have a great team here at TestFit that it comes from industry in some way, shape, or form. It adds, just a lot to the process, but it just adds a lot of comfort to our customers that like the team understands what you're talking about, especially from like the CS side too. Even our CS team comes from industry. and really just focused on, being as relevant as possible. And that helps a lot. Even our marketing team, I think everyone at TestFit comes from industry in some way, shape, or form. Some of our engineers are like PEs, like product even comes from industry, from architecture and PE. So like, I think you really have to be in the industry to be able to build and sell great products.
Okay, yeah, I think this was the case even recently, and in the light of OpenAI and Microsoft, like perhaps entering construction space and grabbing it all, because they have these LLMs and all of it. But I don't think that's the case.
Well, and there's a great case study in that with Google, right? Google had Sidewalk Labs, which then created that company that starts with a D. I can't remember the name of, but that's Delve. There you go. And that's effectively, nothing at this point, right? Like, I think they do a little bit of something on Google Earth, but there's nothing really there. And it's really, really hard, to Laura's point, for big tech to understand what to do when it comes to AECDO.
And, to your point, like, you can only apply LLMs to structured data, and we do not have structured data in construction. Everything is a prototype. So best of luck.
Maybe one day, but not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, Laura, Jack, pleasure. Thank you very much. Where can people find out more about you and your roles in TestFit?
Yeah, TestFit is our website is testfit.io. And yes, I will encourage anyone here. I am happy to connect on LinkedIn. I'm very passionate about this industry and building go-to-market in it. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I think my LinkedIn is /Laura Paciano, so not too hard to find.
Same here. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Have a ton of conversations going with people all the time. So always happy to chat. Super passionate about retail. So if you want to talk about that too, I could talk about that until I'm blue in the face.
Okay.
I'll say that's true. I'll validate that one.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it.